Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we want to take a look at Rivian. Is Rivian in serious trouble? Rivian R2 mass production delayed to 2028. So we got 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028. That's 4 years away. Mass production, ladies and gents. The R2 and R3 are some of the most anticipated and exciting electric vehicles of the future. Rivian has quickly made a name for itself with its thrilling and advanced EVs, but they're hardly exactly cheap. The R2 and R3 looks to fix that as smaller, more affordable offerings compared to the current R1T and R1S SUV. Unfortunately, shoppers waiting to get their hands on the new Rivian vehicles, the more affordable models, are going to have to wait a few more years. The R2 won't go on sale until 2026, and even when it does go on sale, it will only be available in limited numbers. Initially, production of the R2 will begin at Rivian's Illinois factory, which is where the automaker assembles the R1T and R1S, and the electric van. So Rivian is essentially betting big on its Georgia plant to really manufacture the R2 and R3 EVs to make it a global presence of a brand. But the thing is that there's problems with that as well, because Rivian has recently taken a big step, which is a positive. They've taken a big step in restarting the Georgia EV plant construction for the R2 vehicle. The Georgia plant is essential for Rivian to produce the R2 and R3 vehicles, so it's essential for the brand's success. So Rivian is moving closer to restarting the construction of its $5 billion EV plant in Georgia, after pausing it months ago. The company recently took a significant step by applying for a federal loan to get the second manufacturing plant back on track. After revealing its smaller, more affordable R2 vehicle in March, Rivian said it would begin building its Illinois factory rather than its new Georgia plant as initially planned. So that's the thing. They want to start building these vehicles initially in the Illinois factory rather than the Georgia factory. So according to the CEO, RJ Scaringe, the move would save Rivian over $2 billion while getting R2 on the road or on the market quicker. Despite this, Rivian has repeatedly insisted it remains committed to the project as it expands its production. Rivian is expected to begin building R2 models in the first half of 2026, followed by even more affordable R3 and R3X. According to the new filing with the U.S. Department of Energy, Rivian plans to build vehicles in Georgia shortly afterwards. So this is not all doom and gloom. It is not all bad. 2025, they'll still focus on, restarting this construction of the Georgia plant. They'll still focus on the second generation of the R1T and R1S SUV. They want to gear up for 2026, which is basically 2 years away before we can start production of the R2 vehicle in the Illinois factory. So it's not all doom and gloom. Like they said, it will be in limited numbers. You can imagine. Now, this does not mean that they just get to raise the price. If the demand is incredibly high, which it will be, then they get to raise the price. But the point of these vehicles is to be more affordable. So they're going to have to find a medium zone where it can be more affordable, but also it's not too cheap. But it's affordable enough that people can buy, still willing to buy, but also the company can break even or make a small amount of profit. And when we talk about the R2 vehicle, we're talking about this one. This one. It doesn't look all that different compared to the R1S. It's a sibling. It's very similar, but it's a little bit smaller. Side by side, you can see the difference in size. These two, the small ones, these are the R3. R3 in the middle, R3X on the right-hand side. So it's at least promising that they will be trying to still start production as early as possible in 2026. Get familiar with building these things as soon as possible, because once that Georgia factory is ready, they're going to have to go full steam ahead on manufacturing these vehicles, especially in a more affordable manner. So if they can have a few years to figure out the quirks, to improve upon the design and improve upon the manufacturing processes, this will actually make manufacturing at the Georgia plant a little bit easier for the R3 and R2, because they've already gained that experience in the Illinois factory. That's a lot of cars to manufacture in just one factory. There's the Rivian van, there's the R1S, R1T, and then there's the R2 starting in 2026. That's a lot of vehicles. The filings state that Rivian upcoming Georgia EV plant will begin operations in Q3 2027, but it's not expected to run at full capacity until 2028. Bear in mind we could see more delays similar to this. So it's not all a guarantee yet that it's even going to be fully operated by 2028, but it's their best bet. And really and truly, it's like I said, funding has really been keeping Rivian back. It really has. So if anything, they need to figure out a way to manufacture more vehicle in the Illinois factory. Perhaps they need to extend the factory. They need to build upon the factory, increase the size of the factory. I know they're already working to increase efficiency. They've been doing that, especially earlier this year. Similar to other brands, you got NIO, a Chinese brand, and they've worked quite well to increase their efficiency in their factory. And that is a year-on-year thing. It doesn't stop. Every year you want to look at ways to increase efficiency in all areas of your businesses where you can save money and make more profits. Build the vehicles just as efficiently, even more efficiently, but for cheaper, and sell them for a higher premium. That is the goal. That's how you make this EV dream work. And making the EV dream work is so critical. It's critical, but it's a really tough job. It's not easy. Because you're selling electric vehicles, they're incredibly expensive to manufacture till this day. They're getting a little bit better in terms of affordability, but it's still incredibly expensive. Rivian also says it will make fewer vehicles in this year than it did in 2023. A supply chain forced the company to slash its annual forecasts. Rivian said it would make fewer vehicles this year, resulting from a parts shortage. The news came as the company reported third quarter production and delivery numbers came in below analyst expectations. Rivian said it expected to produce between 47,000 to 49,000 vehicles this year, down from 57,000 vehicles it originally forecasted. That number was flat for the previous year, when the company produced 57,232 vehicles and delivered 50,000 vehicles, 122. So you can see they are struggling, and we shouldn't be surprised. Remember the early days of Tesla? They were struggling too. Do you remember the early days of the Tesla Model S? They were struggling too. You remember 2013, 2014, 2015, Tesla was struggling. But they always knew the plan, the far ahead plan was to build more factories. And Tesla managed to gain a lot of market share because they were such an early starter in this EV game. Tesla already went through the difficult part, the difficult decade. That was the 2010s, in my opinion. They went through that difficulty. Now, new EV brands like Polestar, Rivian, Lucid, their new decade that is going to be super difficult for them to get through is the 2020s, not the 2010s, the 2020s. So from 2020 onward to 2030, it's going to be super difficult for these brands to gain a proper foothold and compete with the top brands out there and survive for a decade. Because let's be honest, Rivian's been delivering vehicles since 2022 or 2021. So, but they've been manufacturing and building prototypes and improving and building factories for a bit longer than that. So this is what I mean. A lot of EV brands that are really starting to make a way for themselves in the 2020s. For this decade, it's going to be difficult. For the next 6 years, it's going to be difficult. But if they get through this, the 2030s will be more easier for these brands to deal with, because hopefully they will solve their funding issue by then. It took Tesla a long time to solve their funding issues. I'm surprised that these EV brands are still having funding issues like Polestar and Rivian, because these brands, they're beloved by the people who buy them, so it's obvious that they are winners. Perhaps the brand will not be independent forever, but it could become part of another brand. Polestar, it's a part of the Geely and Volvo brand. Lucid has solved their funding issue. Rivian has not. But Rivian is working to increase funding because they have this joint venture now with Volkswagen, and the German automotive giant will gain access to Rivian software and EV platforms. In exchange, Volkswagen will invest $5 billion in Rivian. I think they will also own a portion of Rivian as well. So that's going to be interesting. Reason I say that is because for the next 6 years, watching how that relationship develops, it's going to be very interesting what impacts that have on Rivian and what impacts that will have on Volkswagen and their brands like Audi, Porsche, Lamborghini, Skoda, all these brands that they have. And perhaps one more thing just to touch on before we end this video. The Rivian stock is finally going back down. You know, it for a while, especially during the month of June and July, it was up there. It was up there, you know, it was in the green. I hold a few shares, still do, and it was in the green. And it slowly went back down. And I knew it would. And I said to people, listen, it's going to go back down. And it's going to go back down to around $10, $9, $8. And we'll see. But because it's back down to around $10, this means it's undervalued once again. It's incredibly undervalued once again. This company is way more valuable than just $10 billion. But earlier this year, they showed that they can recover, you know, the stock in a sense. But I'm not so worried about the stock. The stock will be fine. If the company is fine, the stock will be fine. But we're going to end this video here. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to see more. Leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you in our next video. Peace.